Hey, what's up, y'all? Matt here with Hatch in another episode of Built By. I hope you're doing great today. Today's episode is something that really interests me, and that's innovation. And you've been listening to a few episodes, I'm sure, over the past few weeks. I've had the opportunity to talk with owners, marketers, sales folks, partners of us over here at Hatch. And what I found, pick your jaw up off the floor if this is shocking, is that the home improvement industry as a whole is way behind the curve when it comes to innovation. And the ones that are actually innovating are reaping the rewards right now. And I think the core of this issue is that a lot of the same playbooks that home improvement companies are using are the same ones that they were using 30 years ago. I can't think of another industry that is using techniques from the 70s or 80s and still seeing success. People are changing. The people you are selling to are changing. People want different experiences. And that's where that innovation comes in. And I think that's what the crux of what really interests me about this industry is that I'm seeing a lot of companies take different approaches than what the traditional door knocking, sitting on the couch, not leaving until you get a quote, putting your hand on the doorknob and then turning around and giving them the doorknob close. It's all for show, really. And there is 1,000 better ways to do this. And just as a little forewarning, because I know my generation and I know me, like these sales techniques are not going to work. And that's why the conversation today with Jeremy is so fascinating, is because he's taken what his grandfather and father built and he is innovated on it to create a better company that treats customers the way they want to be treated. That's not to say that he completely abandoned a lot of those foundational aspects that his grandfather and father put in place, which is building relationships with customers, consultative approach, which by the way is something that I'm seeing a lot of companies start doing that and see success with. We also dive into US Construction Zone, which Jeremy's the CEO of. Really, really unique idea, which is it's really going to be a place where you can connect with other peers, get advice from somebody that's across the country that may be doing something differently, and really just expanding your network of similar professionals and what they're doing. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and kick this episode off. Again, this is Jeremy Owens, who is the owner at Three Generations Home Improvements and the CEO at US Construction Zone. I hope you enjoy. This is a podcast for home improvement and home services marketing. This is Built By.
But you've got to be adaptable. You've got to find a way to accommodate an uncomfortable customer.
If you're not getting the home advisor leads in the first 5 minutes, you shouldn't even do it.
Hopefully we're eating their lunch while they're trying to get back up and running.
Yeah, so I am the third generation in a family business in Northern California. We live in Folsom, and my roots go back. My grandpa started in 1956, my dad in the 70s, and myself in the early 2000s. So I went to college and realized I'm just going to stick with the family thing. So it definitely a unique experience being the third generation with all of those kind of different eras and decades. Everything was so different. I mean, from my grandpa's era to now, there's nothing recognizable about home improvement at all. So, navigating those waters, coming out of college and figuring out how do we kind of do tug of war with the old school versus new school. And I represented the new school. It's unique. I think there's not a lot of family businesses, especially where we're at. It's very unique. So I appreciate that. I know what we have, and we're very blessed and fortunate to have a family business. So, it's been a great ride. And we're on year, I think 16 in three generations here in Northern California. And then back in Spokane, Washington, where my roots started, there was a business called Owens Western Builders, and that's where our roots kind of started back in the 70s, 80s. So
yeah. Very, very cool, man. You see all these, like, I've seen movies and TV shows of like when the next generation takes over the family business and it doesn't go as smoothly or as well. What's that pressure of like when you are given kind of the reins and you've seen success, your father had success. What's that pressure like when you first get it?
Yeah, good question. I didn't really feel a lot of pressure, I think, because we're very confident in our abilities and myself included, just do things the right way and
Mhm.
the business will take care of itself. So I think we've always had that mentality that, hey, as long as we know we're doing good work and we're proud of it, we hit the pillow with no regrets, then the fear kind of goes away. So that's definitely been my experience too. Is there's never really been a fear. Obviously, there's been dips in the economy and stuff that curveballs that come your way, but I think if you build it the right way, you should be able to sustain those things.
Yeah, I love that, man. And talking about building it the right way, and you being in the business and seeing how things were run early on, what are some of the qualities that you attribute to that, like continued growth and that easy, I guess, passover to you?
Yeah, I think the main thing is that there's not a lot of pride. I think that that's where a lot of contractors get in, and family businesses get into trouble, is that there's a tug of war over who wants to be the boss, and we don't really care. Honestly, I typically call my dad Kurt the President, just because he deserves that title, but he doesn't care, and I don't care. So
Mm.
I think that that's a unique perspective that I don't think that's a learned thing. I think that we're just kind of born with that, and my dad was totally my hero growing up. So there's a total respect factor, both likewise. Like he respects me, I respect him, but we also respect each other's talents. Like we have completely different talents, and I let him do his thing, and he lets me do my thing, and it works. It works. I don't know. I can't say that it'll work for everybody, and it probably doesn't. But I would say that I would attribute most of that to my dad's leadership.
That's awesome, man. It's great to have that kind of role model to look up to, and especially when you can still look up to that person and still like kind of help you make decisions and steer things the right way. So that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Um, I want to dive in a little bit to what you had said earlier, which is like you're bringing a new perspective to three generations, and things have been done a certain way for a long time, but I think your generation, our generation, there's been more significant changes in a faster amount of time, it feels like. So, what would you say have been some of your biggest contributions, I guess, to kind of keep the family still going new with this new school kind of attitude?
Yeah, I think the main thing I did from the beginning is put all of our resources online. Like
Mm.
we just stopped doing anything print. Honestly, we just direct mail. We even really stopped doing events and shows and things like that. We just put all of our eggs in the online basket, and honestly, it made our life a lot easier. Yeah, doing home shows and taking off on a Thursday and setting up your booth, and then going Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and it's difficult life. It's tough on a family, and I wanted to be with the family and coach and do the things that I'm passionate about. So we kind of stopped doing those and I just said, hey, let's just do this whole internet thing. And
Mm.
so we put all of our advertising, really worked on our website, and just have always put our resources there. So I think that's been our key to success, is that some of the old school tactics and maybe what we were used to and how we would get a lead is different now, and it continues to be different. So I think the online aspect for me has been, luckily we chose that route instead of sticking with the old school.
Yeah, I mean that jump, man, of like stopping home shows, and I'm sure if you told a lot of owners that, they'd probably like give you like a second look. Like that's our main lead generator, our primary lead generator. Not so much the last year for obvious reasons, but
Right.
how did you come to that decision? Were you seeing success like digitally first, or was it just like, we're going to stop this and we're going to do this?
I think a little bit of both. I think selfishly, like I said, I didn't think it was a sustainable model for us. Being a small family business, we never had aspirations of being the biggest guy on the block. We always were wanting to be lean and mean and family oriented. So I think with that in mind, knowing that we're not going to have staff that we can throw at things like an event, or home show. And I think if people are doing that and it's successful for them, I think typically they're a bigger business.
Mm.
They're rarely, a small business, because you have to manage all that. You have to, put the booth together. You're doing all of the aspects, where if you're a big business, you have a crew to go put the booth up and break it down, and you show up a couple hours a day. That's different. So I think, for that aspect, so the selfish reason was I didn't want to spend all my weekends doing it. But yeah, I saw the writing on the wall with where people were going, and my clients were there. So
Mm.
I was really after, hey, where are ideal clients at? And they're online already. They're more advanced than maybe we were at that point. And so we wanted to go find those people instead of telemarketing. I mean, I cut my teeth selling with telemarketing leads, and that's rough, man. That's not a warm lead. That's walking in a home going, man, I don't even half the time they don't even know what you're selling. And so yeah, so I think that I saw the writing on the wall. My clients were there. Let's just go find them there.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's interesting. I think a lot of businesses can make a mistake, and I've made the mistake. I'm guilty of it too, of like going where your competitors are and not going where your customers are, and it
Mm.
leads to this big, like, you're kind of flooding a market, and there's other opportunities out there. So that's pretty awesome that you saw like the writing on the wall. Was it just like customers that you were working with that you were getting leads from, that you were like, well, we're getting leads from here, let's expand a little bit here? Or were you more talking to customers and seeing like, do you even go to these home shows, or are you just online all the time?
Yeah, I would say talking to homeowners was a good kind of secret, but we're surrounded by a lot of tech industry. So,
Mhm.
we're surrounded by the Bay Area, so there's a lot of influence there. So I think that was part of it, was seeing them online already and seeing what their habits were different than us. But excuse me, turn the phone off there. Um,
You're good.
so yeah, I think that, yeah, interviewing them, asking them, hey, why did you choose us? Where did you find us? I think that was something that I've always done, is when I get the lead, I always find out where they found us exactly, not just online, where online,
Mm.
and then really kind of navigating that, and kind of pivoting our marketing that way. So I think a lot of people struggle with where they find leads and tracking it. We track every single lead we get. So we know cost per lead, cost per sale. So we know, hey, this isn't working. Let's switch it up. Let's put our eggs in a different basket. Again,
Yeah.
online basket. But
Yeah.
so yeah, definitely where our clients are. We found they were online, and we were like, okay, well, I guess we need to figure this out and learn about it a little bit. And then that's when Home Advisor and all these things were coming at us, and we're like, oh crap, I guess we're not the only ones feeling this way.
Mhm.
Now we have actual vendors that are trying to get leads for us as well. So yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. You get that like juicy lead in, and like you kind of get tunnel vision sometimes of like, all right, I want to close this right now and not worry about anything else. But you can learn so much more from each lead that comes in. Even the ones you don't close, I'm sure they'd be open to, conversation of why they didn't choose your business and still where they came from, things like that. So
Yeah.
that's pretty interesting, man. I want to hone in on something that you mentioned, which was, as a small company and you like to stay fast and agile. And I think we were talking the other day, and you had mentioned that you keep the team very close knit, and it's the family atmosphere, right? And I think you mentioned that you had like your best friends
Mhm.
are kind of working in the business with you.
Yep.
When it comes to making that decision of, let's say a company is going to scale up, maybe they were where you were, when you first got the reins before you hired people. What was the reason for that decision? Instead of going like, full bore, throwing yourself onto like Craigslist or wherever you want to hire, contractors at. Talk a little bit about that versus, hiring internally from your own network.
Yeah, I think it's a common pitfall for a lot of contractors. I mean, businesses in general, but a lot of contractors don't come from a business savvy community. A lot of times you form a business because it's easier. I want to work for myself, and I don't want to work for that guy anymore.
Mm.
So you don't necessarily come at it from a high level business mind, not even college or, it's just like, hey, I'm going to just start this thing on my own. And I think the pitfall you fall in is that you want to go get the big warehouse and the showroom, and you want to look big, and it feels better, I guess. I don't know. You open up that shop and you feel like this pride factor when you enter in, like, this is mine. And I think that mentality gets in people in a lot of trouble. I saw a lot of it happen in the downturn of the economy, and they had this giant showroom and they had to lay people off, and before you know it, they're losing their business. So we always wanted to be lean because of not having that pride involved, but also we have that family story that we wanted to keep intact. Like, we didn't want to have a sales guy walking in a home without any story to tell about us, the family, how they got there, all that stuff. So I think that was the main reason that we didn't want to like go hire a random sales guy. Is the first sales guy we hired was my best friend Logan from high school, and he's been with us ever since. And his role continues to expand. And I hope that he can fill my shoes one day and step in what I'm doing. So it's a unique situation, but I think the bottom line is I'm a control freak. So I don't want to give the reins to anybody. And as a salesman, we're not a sales organization. We don't go in and sell in the home. So for us, that whole thing is the family story. And if it's some random person that doesn't have the story to tell, I don't think that's going to hold up.
Yeah, yeah, and I love that you mentioned that you're salesman, but you don't go on the home and sell. You rely a lot on that story. You know, it's I call it an epidemic in the industry, but it's the one call close mentality that you see everywhere. And it was probably a leftover from the early days when people were moving door to door selling vacuums or something. I don't know. It could be any reason. There's a lot of stuff there. But it's very interesting. You've transitioned, and I don't know if this was something that you did early on in the business at Three Generations, but transitioning to that relationship building model and that brand driven model of sales. Talk a little bit about how that transition came about and how that became like your primary sales process.
Yeah, I would say pretty early on. I think it's just my own experience of in-home sales. Like, I never liked it in my home. I was never comfortable with someone trying to do that to me. I never liked car salesmen. No offense, if you're a car salesman, listen to this podcast about construction. That it just never gave me a feeling of confidence in that person. It always felt like I was trying to be sold. And so we kind of went into more of a we're consultant role for them. Like, we just feel like there's enough business for everybody, and we felt like, hey, this is our best foot forward. This is our very professional proposal that we typically email to people. We're not going to sell in the home, and we have complicated projects now too. Our siding and window and decking projects are not something easy to just sketch out and be like, okay, here's $85,000 that we're guessing is going to be the price. I think we wanted to more accurately figure out the job, be more fair in our pricing so that we make sure we're making a fair margin. It's fair for everybody. And I think when you do it in the home, you're typically guessing high. And then, if it's not working out, you start whittling your way down until you get into like, okay. So I think for me, it started with, I didn't like it when people did it to me. And I figured, hey, I don't think the clients probably like that either. And so then you can really, on the phone, you can say, hey, we don't, we're not a sales organization. We're not going to even give you a price when we're in the home. We're going to take it back and we're going to figure it. And then we're going to email it to you and hopefully meet back up with you and things like that. But yeah, I think that's the old school way that we transitioned to the new school way. And I think it's paid off really well. We have like a cancellation maybe once every 5 years. And it's usually not something to do with us. It's usually like, hey, my finances didn't figure out. So that makes you feel good. I mean, if you're selling in the home, one call close, you probably will have a handful of cancellations a month.
Yeah.
Because there's that buyer's remorse. That's that 3-day right where they're like, well, honey, we got to cancel this. 80 grand last night. And so we wanted to avoid that. We didn't want the buyer's remorse.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned the other day, like it also reduces the stress and therefore is less of a hassle like on your on-site team whenever you are completing the project because the the customer can go to you and directly and say, "Hey, Jeremy, like what's up? Like why is this happening?" or something along those lines. Is that something you've encountered?
Yeah. Oh, definitely. I think we invite the homeowner communication during the project. So we want to flush it out any problems that arise in the selling process, but also the production process. That is why we are present on the job site. We want to make sure that that job goes smoothly. We don't want
Mhm.
to just hand it to the install team and hope that it all goes well. We want to be present. We want to be there the day one. We want to line it all up. And then typically we want to show up at least every couple days or so. And we're checking in constantly because I think a lot of homeowners, they're not real open with their communication. So they stew about it. You know, if something's not going right, they'll just sit on it for 2, 3 days. And then before you know it, you see them again and they're fired up. And you're like, what happened? So you got to kind of flush all of those things out from, like I said, from the beginning to the end to make sure that you're taking care of their questions. And a lot of times the questions are just because they don't know. And
Mhm.
we're expecting them to know about all this remodeling thing, and this is their first experience. So
Yeah.
yeah, doing our best to flush that out, I think, is really key, as opposed to waiting till the end and go pick up a check and then see an angry customer, you know, and then a bad review.
Yeah, yeah, which I want to get into in like my next question, but before that, I think you mentioned last time, communicating with customers is the big thing, and removing those barriers of communication. And I think you mentioned that you had implemented texting in your business, to talk to homeowners. Um, is that something that was like born from that, like we just need to be able to connect with the customer in any channel? And if so, is that like something you've seen success with?
Yeah, I think what we've tried to do is find out what their preferred contact method is, even when we get the lead. Uh,
Mm,
so even on our website, on the forum, we even added that, like, how do you prefer we communicate with you? And there's a lot more people who are wanting text now, obviously, than ever before. So, I mean, I think there's a tendency for contractors to like want to call and like, we need to get this lead and we need to like, but sometimes they don't want to call, and you'll find that people don't pick up the phone anyways. So, why not just meet them where they are? And so we found that a lot of customers prefer texting, and I think they prefer it during the production as well, because then it's an easy, they're on the couch like, hey, what time's the crew going to be here tomorrow? Or, our porta potty's still on site. Things like little things like that that really don't need a call. It's just a quick text, and we're able to get back to them quickly and really solve that question, or that whatever comes up during the project. But yeah, we're finding, I don't know, probably half now want to be texted, whereas 5 years ago that was a very small percentage. And it's strange. I
yeah.
mean, even baby boomer age, they're preferring text, and you wouldn't expect that, but they're used to it now too, I guess.
Yeah, even using emojis, it's crazy.
Not always the right way, but they're used.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy, like, my 2 favorite stats are, I think MIT Sloan put it out recently that, like, 97% of consumers these days, like, don't answer phone calls from unknown numbers or from businesses,
Yes.
compared to, like, 98% of people open and read texts all day. It's crazy how things are shifting, and like especially now as like millennials become the number one like home buyer, and they're needing improvements on houses. And speaking as a millennial, I would much rather text a business than call it. It's crazy to see that dichotomy shift, I guess, over
Yes.
time.
We're seeing it as well.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. So I want to dive a little bit into you had mentioned, reviews. And this was something that we talked about last time, which I thought was super interesting, which was like referrals were more important 10 years ago.
Mhm.
Reviews are more important today. And that's super controversial. I would love to, you
Yeah,
know,
I don't know that I don't know that that's a common. I mean, I think that I still stand by that, because I think what we're seeing is homeowners, even 5, 10 years ago, they would go up to a neighbor and talk to them about their project. Some would even knock on the door. and say, hey, who did it? What did you do? You mind if I walk around? Like all sorts of like very personal things. Nowadays, people are they're inside their house and they're less likely to go ask. They're less likely to do any of the things that we thought were normal back in the day. So now what they do, even if their neighbor 2 doors down did a siding project with us, they're still going to go online and look up the company. They're not going to just take that job site sign or that warm lead over there and run with it.
Mhm.
They're going to do their own diligence first, and then they might call us. So I think even from the lead standpoint, all the way through the sale, now again they go right to the internet to find testimonials, reviews. Those are as powerful as referrals because they just don't trust. They don't even necessarily trust a family member with a referral. They still want to do their own research. And I think it's partly we're conditioned that way. I mean, we do it for restaurants, we do it for almost everything we do now. And I think contractors are right in that boat. In fact, I think they're more valuable because it really gives you an idea of a company. Not only the good reviews, but the bad reviews. Like,
Yeah.
you got to have them, right? This is construction. Things are going to go wrong. How does that company handle it when the chips are down? When you break a pipe, when something doesn't go the way it's supposed to go, how does that company handle it? Do you see them dig their heels in and get mad, and you see the pride in the response, like I'm right, or do
Yeah.
you see them do it like, I'll reach out to you again? Do you see them continue to try to make it right? I think for me, I go right to the negative reviews and find out, hey, what kind of metal they got.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you seen the news article that came out, I think earlier this week, with the roofing company in Washington that's suing a couple for $112,000 because they left 2 negative reviews on their Google My
Uh,
Business page?
I also heard of a business. I don't even know the business name, that now that you can review homeowners, or like you can
Oh, okay.
put like them on a blacklist of like, don't work with this person. I mean,
Yeah.
it's strange. I mean, I guess they can do it to us, but I mean, yeah, I've heard that. I've heard the suing. I've never understood that whole aspect. There's no way we're ever going to go to that level. I mean, it's just there's no point.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's crazy. So I think personally, I think Yelp has been kind of a struggle for local businesses, right? Because the people that are most likely to leave a bad review, or the people that are most likely to leave a review, are the ones that had a bad experience and they just want to have an outlet or whatever. So it's very interesting that you're able to charge homeowners to help get positive reviews. Are you just following up after every project and just saying, can you leave a review, or are you like emailing a link, or how's that in process?
Yeah, I would say we had struggled with that. That's one thing that we struggled with, is we would follow up, via email with like a list of all of our links, and hey, if you don't, please review us. We found that it's really hard. Like, just like anything, homeowners, like you said, they're less likely to leave that really good review unless we really wow them. I mean, you have to really do well, and I think in person, you have to ask in person. You have to, face to face is always better than email. If you could say, hey, if you please review us, so it really means a lot for a small business. It goes a lot longer than an email.
Mhm.
But shout out to our recent web developer, Ramblin' Jackson. They're out of Colorado, and they have a drip system for getting testimonials and reviews. And
Very
so
cool.
it is you put the client in, it shoots an email to them with the links, and then if they don't follow up in a few days, they'll send it again and again. So it's not bombarding them, but it's taking it off you and like your plate. There's no way you can manage that on your own. So I think a system like that has been really valuable for us, because then you're not having to manage it yourself. So I think it's a must. I think right
Yeah.
now is having some sort of a drip system for getting those reviews.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, shameless plug, but like my company Hatch, like we do the drips through texting, which has been kind of a game changer for a lot of businesses.
Ah,
But you're right, man. Like, just that automated touch, dropping reviews every once in a while, where it's hands off, is a game changer for a lot of businesses that a lot of people aren't really thinking about. So that's really interesting. Jeremy, I know we're running against time, but one thing I really want to talk about is U.S. construction zone.
mhm.
So I think this is a really cool idea. I can't explain it as well as you. So can you give me kind of your overall vision for US Construction Zone and kind of how you came up with this idea?
Yeah, sure. It's been kind of a side hustle for me for the last 2, 3 years. And basically, it's just spawned from talking with a lot of peers in our industry about not being able to connect.
Mhm.
And what we found as the construction industry in general is that we all have a lot of trade organizations. There's a trade organization for everything in construction. From electrical to plumbing to siding to windows. Like everyone has their own thing, but they don't have a way to connect it. You can go to that annual conference maybe, but for the most part, the connection piece is missing. And so that's really kind of where the idea spawned, is that we want to be able to connect executives, management level CEOs nationwide together. And so
Mhm.
we're going to do that through US Construction Zone, and we're going to allow them to connect and view the content based on their trades. So I'm not seeing things that I don't want to see, and I'm able to see, ask questions nationwide, give answers nationwide to my peers. And so it's really more high level stuff, stuff that we're talking about today.
Mhm.
That's the exact kind of conversations I want to have online. And so it's been exciting. It's going to roll out here in the next month or so. So you'll probably see emails and things in magazines and stuff like that. And so we're really excited about it, but really is just a connection tool, a networking tool for executives in the construction industry. And we're hoping to find a lot of people like you and me, and people that care about the industry, but not only care about the industry, but want to give back. So we really
Mhm.
want a heavy charity component. We want a type of person that wants to help a fellow contractor in need. That's who we're looking for.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. So if listeners want to learn more, is there anywhere they can sign up, to get these email blasts and things like that?
Yeah, so usconstructionzone.com is the website, and pretty soon we're gonna hit a launch button, and it'll be a contest. So it'll be a referral email contest. So yeah, be looking out for. You can just sign up there for information, and then we'll send you emails as we roll it out. But yeah, hopefully in about a month or so it'll go live, and who knows, right? What happens after that? So.
That's right. Well, awesome, Jeremy. So I've got one last question I'd like to ask every guest, and it's super vague on purpose. And take your time if you need to think about it. But what's the number one piece of advice you would give to anyone in the home improvement industry right now?
Ooh, that is a good question. Yeah, I would say it's. I brought it up. I probably used this term maybe 5 times in this podcast. Is put your pride aside.
Mhm.
I think that one thing that I love about people in the construction is that we have a lot of pride. We get to build something, see it come to fruition, take a picture of it, watch people be happy. There's a lot of pride that's involved with that process, and as well it should be. You're doing a great thing that's heavily needed in this nation right now. But I think that in that process, we with that pride is that it gets in the way of dealing with client relations. And it could be a homeowner, it could be anybody, it can be a sub, it can be whatever you relationship you're encountering, is that pride gets in the way, and you're right, and maybe you are right, but the way you communicate from then on out, it can be rough. And I've seen so many of those relationships just go the wrong way because there's like a pride battle, and someone's right, someone's wrong, but then there's this giant battle, and then you get into that, I'm suing you, like it goes down crazy areas where you just got to put it aside and take a step back, maybe even take a break from it. Don't respond, wait 24 hours, talk as a team about it. Hey, how do we respond to this? And you'll have different approaches, but for me, I'm always like, hey dude, let's just redo that side of the house. What? Let's just redo it. I mean, honestly, I'd rather just redo it. They're happy. Sure, we eat a couple $1,000, but what's our end goal here? What are we trying to do? Because if we go down that rabbit hole, then we could be doing this 2 months down the road, and that
Mhm.
my energy, your energy is put into that. We're not selling. We're spending time on that. So I would say swallow that pride, and it's not always easy to do, but I would say that's my number one.
That's awesome, man. And I want to reference something you said earlier in the podcast too, when it comes to that, which is like, you do what you can to, so your head can hit the pillow at night and not be stressed out.
Yeah, I think it's huge. I think there's a lot of stress involved in any profession, but I think for us, it's that, if you feel like you didn't do something the right way, maybe you felt like you cut a corner, or you lied to a homeowner or whatever it may be, you're not going to sleep as well, and
Mm.
then your stress is ramped up, and then your health is affected. So it's a domino effect. So I think for sure, I think in life, right? If you can hit your head, if you hit your pillow, not drunk, if you just hit your pillow normally, then
Weekends only.
then I think it's always going to be better for your life and for your relationships, your family, everything. So
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And that's why I love that question. It's just spur of the moment, spontaneity, and like some of the best stuff comes out. And that's one of the best answers I've ever heard. So,
yeah, I appreciate it.
uh, yeah. So, Jeremy, that's all the questions I had. Thanks so much again for joining today, man. There's been some really good stuff in here, and I can't wait to share this with viewers. In the meantime, if viewers want to learn more or connect with you, is there anywhere they can go? I know you mentioned U.S. Construction Zone, but is there anywhere, any other outlets?
Yeah, I mean, I would probably say I'm not awesome with social media, but I would say LinkedIn under Jeremy Owens is probably the best place to catch me. But yeah, I'm not huge on the other ones. I'm trying, but I'm just not very good at it. So I would say LinkedIn is the best way.
Awesome, man. Got to build the founder brand. Got to be posting LinkedIn, Facebook. Yeah, you're soon to be founder. It's awesome, man.
I appreciate it, man. I appreciate the conversation, the good questions.
Yeah, thanks so much, Jeremy. Have a good one.
You too.